still a little like,
you go on the new Death Star, you still got pieces of the old one. They were like, no, it's the Death Star. It's like, not the Death Star.
Like Vader was here, is still in one of the stalls. It's there. Everyone knows that's what it is.
But
and
that's
it's like,
honestly, that's a really great way of summing up a lot of those new movies. Is it just looked like, I'm like, you just repainted something.
They're just retelling the same story, and like they had all different. They had so much. They had a wealth of like source material and extra stuff that they could.
I remember everybody was
of
pissed after Disney made that big announcement, and they were just like, "We're not following any of the books or any of that. None of that's canon for our movies."
I mean, I get it, so they can kind of leave themselves more creative, whatever. Yeah. However, at the same time, to just abandon it.
You recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
To just abandon it and just go in a direction that like. They didn't even have a plan together. Like, I'd imagine when the prequels were made, there was a whiteboard at least.
Yeah.
Where they had, like, boom,
no,
boom,
we'll get to
boom.
here. But instead for this one.
For this one, it was like, we're going to make this one, and then we'll figure it out afterwards. And there was they're awful.
Yeah.
They're really awful. How do you make a Star Wars movie where you kill Luke Skywalker? How do you do that?
Like
how
in
do you,
the second
and The Last Jedi, your favorite Star Wars movie. How do you...
It is my favorite.
Your favorite Star Wars movie is the one where they kill Luke
Star Wars
Skywalker.
Movie,
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Wait, before you rip me apart, I have to do an intro. I have to do an intro. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Millennial Stoner. It's Joe Winchell. I am the Millennial Stoner. I'm just going to get right to it. My guest this week is James Raniolo.
That's it.
Got it. I was practicing in the fucking car on the way over here, man. I was so worried. I was just going to be like, Lamma Ding Dong.
It would just be funny. It would just be a bunch of hard edits. It's like, our next guest is Raniolo. Yes, very good. Very good.
The 70s Carson show, and Edward McMahon was too drunk to make the announcements.
Perfect.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. This
and
was
you also
fun.
brought a little bit of bourbon.
Oh, yes, it
The
is.
second guest ever to do that. The only guest so far that's actually recorded an episode.
All right, well, let's hope.
So I appreciate having
this
you
doesn't
on,
become
man.
a lost episode.
No, well, literally. It's good shit. So I do the show. I like to talk to people that I meet in the comedy scene and just people I find interesting. And I've done a couple shows with you. I think you're funny, and you've always been nice to me.
As
so that
you
qualifies you to
yes,
be on.
exactly. 100%, yes. Always been a cool dude to me as well.
And so I usually start the show out pretty simple with everything. How long have you been? You're a stand-up comedian. You do stand-up comedy. How long have you been doing it for?
I'll be 5 years in September.
5 years. Me too.
September,
I think we started around the same time.
Yeah, late September was my very first time I did an open mic.
Yeah.
So
did you like fall on? Did you like decide one day you were going to do it on your own, or did somebody push you into it?
Well, I've always wanted to do comedy for a while, but it's one of these things in life, like so many things, where I won't actively pursue it. It needs to come my way. It needs to come my way.
Yeah.
Someone has to offer it to me, and even then, maybe I'll. I'm all up in the air about it, right? So,
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Massapequa, and there was a bar, Ziggy's, that did open mic. So I was just hanging out there one night, watching football, I think, and the Rocco Perillo and the gang came through, and it was like the first or second time they ever did an open mic there, and they started They just did an open mic like right there. So I turned around, I watched, I enjoyed it, it was great, and then I went up to Steve, and I'm like, how do I get in on this? And he just show up next week.
Yeah.
So I showed up next week. I wrote some stuff down, and everyone gave me that first timer courtesy.
Yes.
I had the presence, so it wasn't like I was scared to go up there.
Yeah, see, a lot of people when they start out, it's a lot of one of the humps they have to get over is they'd have to being the presence up there.
Yeah, the fear of talking in front of people I didn't have.
That's good.
So it was not so much that, but and that's how pretty much it all started. And
after that, you're like, I'm going to keep doing this.
And I pretty much started going to mics. I mean, weekly. For a while, I was only going to Ziggy's once a week.
So that was like, this is my mic.
It was my comfort zone, yeah.
I understand.
And I would, the more I would go, the more I would have, I would run in to talk to comics after mics, and I would have, I would ask them for advice. And the one answer that they gave me, no matter any problem I had, was go to more mics.
Keep doing it.
Just different mics. Just go to different mics. So you gotta venture out of this place. This place is great for you, but so
it's
then eventually I just started hopping around to other different places and pretty much doing it on an open mic level ever since.
That's awesome, dude. That's a really nice story. That's just like a nice,
right?
There's no like, well, that was the day my father died. I knew I had to change some shit.
Yeah, no, it was just always something I've always wanted to do, and I'm happy I did it later on in life when I was just now jaded and damaged. Because if I tried this in my mid-20s, I would try to be like a crowd-pleasing jackass, and it wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I would want to be more like, love me.
Yeah.
Now it's more just listen if you want. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, like, it's not, like, of course, everyone wants to be laughed. Everyone wants to be liked and whatnot. And
Of course.
people laugh at your stuff. But, like, at the same time, it's like, this is my time. At least just at the minimum, pay attention. You know, that's kind of how I look at it.
But like that's nice because it is. I think it is what we do is like it is. There's a form of validation that comes with. There's like it's like worked into it. Which is why I think a lot of people do it because you're kind of like you kind of validation is kind of part of the deal. But if you kind of go up there with that mentality like that and everything, it's like. Is the door's there, or you can sit right in front of me. I mean, it's that's that good kind of like I don't give a shit mentality that makes it being fun and everything. I think.
Right, and I also, but because I like doing it,
Yeah.
I feel like I reached a point where when I would be nervous. I would only have 4 minutes worth of material, 5 minutes worth of material, so I would drive to these mics. Nervous as hell, reciting it over. I'm going to do this joke, then I'm going to do this joke, and what if I don't? And I'd be nervous
like
about
a perfectionist in your own mind.
Yeah,
right?
about like they've heard it before. I always had this thought that I had to come with something new every time.
Yeah.
And as a result, I thinned out a lot of stuff, and I guess I let a lot of stuff go by the wayside because maybe I told this joke one time 6 months in, didn't get any laughs, banned it immediately.
And you never worked it, you never reworded
and forgot it exists,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
now I'm fortunate to go to a point where, shit, what time is it? I suppose I can make it to this mic before it closes, and I'll just wing it.
Yeah,
you know,
I've
like
got one idea in my head. Let me just work that out.
Even if I don't, I've been around long enough where I can just get up there and just I can just rant and rave for 5 minutes. It'll still be entertaining, you know.
Yeah,
It won't be
exactly.
Like, if I was a brand new guy just showing up out of nowhere, just grousing about my day.
Oh, you see a lot of that stuff.
But when you know me,
yeah, it's
and
different.
I show up in my work clothes and I look all disheveled, like, guys, listen, let me tell you what happened today. Like you know, it's like because everyone's your buddies at this point, you know. It's like it's so.
I mean that's you know, and that's I think because 5 years in, I definitely feel a little more accepted into the community. Like I've made friends. I have people that I consider pretty close at this point.
Yeah, me too, man.
And I'm really happy to have met. And it's weird because I remember deciding at some point in my 30s, I'm like, I don't need any more friends.
Right.
Like, you know, like around 32, I was like a 31. I was like, I guess I don't really need any more fucking friends.
Right.
You know, but like, I'm happy that I met these guys. It's good. And yeah, and to your point about something new every time,
Mm-hmm.
I had that same mentality, and I think just now I'm starting to be like, just work it.
Right.
Because you're right. Just because you wrote that thing out and it doesn't register right there, your premise might still be sound.
Right.
So if you still work it, you know, and that's, I think a lot of people, I hate when people give up on something that I'm like, but that's so, like, that has the potential to be so funny.
Right. Plus, it was like 6th, 7th month in, James wasn't confident enough to say it because maybe it was shitty or bad. But 5-year James, I'll say anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if it doesn't matter, if it doesn't get a laugh, it doesn't get a laugh. Like, it's whatever. I don't. There's no consequence the way. I mean, there never was.
Yeah.
But I felt that there was some weird consequence then.
Yeah, like
I don't
there
know
was
why.
somebody
I was
like
under some weird scrutiny.
Yeah, the warden of comedy was going to come out and tell me I sucked or some shit like that.
Maybe because it was like I felt like I wasn't part of the group yet. I was just some guy that used to hang out at the bar, and that's how they're gonna. I still feel that that's how they look at me. You know, like
I have that problem sometimes.
You know what I'm
too.
saying? So it was
Yeah.
like, oh, there's a lot of regulars at certain mics that are that are regulars at the bar, but they've been going up and doing they've been doing all right.
Yeah.
You know, they're not like the best, but you know, they're not like awful either. But like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna go on Tuesday. I'm gonna do the open mic, and they don't take it as seriously as we do. You know, so it was like I felt like that's how I was looked at for a while.
It's
like,
just like who's the schlub.
right, and then like I'd start showing up to other shows on the mics, and people were like, "Really? You're just you're sticking around?" You know? I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Like this is I like this. This I like this a lot." So.
It was this. Yeah, same instance for me where I was just like, I just kept showing up. Like you know, they were just like, still here, and I'm like, same thing. I was like, I like this. Like,
I like
you know
it a lot.
I mean?
It's like weirdly addicting, so I gotta just keep at it.
Yeah, I learned that when I didn't like do anything for like 2 weeks at one point. Like I was just like 2 years in, I was just busy, and then like 2 weeks went by, and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna die. Why do I feel like I'm gonna die? Like,
I forgot to do something.
I've got to do, and then you go and talk about, I don't know, I came weird last night. Here's why.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she was really disappointed, and I have shame now.
And you can just say shit like that. Like you can't say that at work. You can't just. You can't go to your job and the guy next to your next desk and be like, "Let me tell you how. I came weird yesterday."
That's
dude. Like,
exactly. I got blown last night. It was good, not the best.
You can't.
You know?
And what's funny is, you know, we all work with guys that like think that you want to hear that shit. Like they'll tell you their sex stories all the time. I don't, but if you were to tell me on the stage, I'd be like, all right, what happened?
Yeah,
you know, like
well, that's because
the
I'm like,
asshole
all
at
right,
the desk next to me. He's like, oh, bro, I stuck it in her. I'm like, I don't want to hear this shit. Dude, but if somebody else was saying it on stage,
at your
I'm
job.
like, you have my curiosity. What do you got? What happened? Tell me about it. You know?
Like I just imagine you at work and like at a desk and somebody behind you was like, hey, James, let me tell you something. I did anal for the first time last night. And you're just like sitting there like, I haven't even started doing accounting yet, dude.
I am not even on the clock, bro.
Yo, Bill, shut the fuck up. Like, but you're right. And you know what? The thing about the medium of comedy, even as a job, it's like, dude, no wonder so many comedians die because like they give you enough rope to hang yourself with. Right. Can I drink on the job? Oh, dude, you drink on the job? Go ahead. Can I do drugs? You know what? Why not? Like,
it's like it's almost like an accepted kind of behavior, especially if that's part of your personality anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just it's you can go off the rails a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I can't be. You know, it's not acceptable for someone. You know, if I was like a.
Yeah.
You know, if I was like a nurse or something, it's
exactly.
like, oh, he was up all night party. It's all right. He's, you know, that's not okay. But it's like, you know, if I have a tragic story where one night I get too drunk at a show and I make an ass out of myself, yeah, I'm gonna feel a little silly about it. But eventually, that's just gonna be another story.
Yeah, eventually, you're just gonna make a
it'll
bit
just
out
be
of that.
part of the.
Yeah.
It'll just be part of the whatever. And
have
it's
you back
like,
on here talking about the time you got shit housed at a mic.
Exactly. It either fades away or it's just like, all right, he can hang. You know,
exactly.
If I was a nurse and that shit happens, like. Yeah, keep him away from the narcotics cabinet. Like, you know, I just can't.
It's not going to last long in this program.
Right, exactly. This is not. Maybe this is not for you.
It's funny because like there's an element of acceptance. There's like these kind of levels or something that you go through I think that you go through in your first couple of years if you stick with it. You know what I mean? And like that 5-year mark is a weird one because I'm like I don't know about you, but like I definitely feel like I'm at a spot where I really want to evolve my material and I get kind of impatient with it. And I was wondering if you kind of have that problem too. It's like, are you at a spot right now where you're like your stuff is like I want it to get better, but you're not that you're not willing to put in the time, but you're just impatient with it. You're like
yes and no, because most of my stuff is just me and my life. Yeah. Like it's like I don't really sit down and write like today I'm gonna write about this. Mm-hmm. You know, it's mostly like my just experience.
Yeah.
You know, so like a year and some change ago, I got out of like a long relationship, just ended, right? So I needed that as like I wrote a lot about dating. I wrote a lot about just a lot of just so it was like stuff that I was just pretty much living.
But it's stuff you know.
Yeah, but it was like I had the premises, but I never sat down and was like I'm gonna just make this funny. An arbitrary thing, you know. It was just like this is some tragic shit that I'm going through, and I need to be able to just get this out to people without it being, you know, without it sounding like
something
without having a pity party.
Yes.
So I'm making it
exactly.
I'm making it a funny, comedy friendly format,
and that's what the medium's for to an extent too.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but now it's like it's so much. Now it's like I want to. I'm more of at a tier where it's like I either want to. Write like I don't know. It's like maybe start writing more about the random stuff and whatnot. Maybe become more observational and whatnot. Or I just kind of want to like leave the state for a little bit. You know, like I want to be a stranger in a strange land and just maybe do like you were saying before. You just did like just drove out with a bunch of boys to Pennsylvania. You did a show. You come back.
It's
like I want to do stuff like that. I feel like I've hit that level where I have enough time where I don't have to worry about. If someone says, all right, you got 6 minutes, I have so much that I can draw from. You know, like I have a lot of different 6 minutes that I can put together that I'd rather do, I'd rather just step out of the comfort zone. And I'm too comfortable around here.
And I think like you were also talking that to you were talking before about like when people were giving you advice and they were saying, do other mics. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the same thing as like when I got the opportunity to do stuff out of state, I jumped at it just because I was like, I want to do stuff out of state.
Right.
I want to do stuff. That was like my mindset. I'm like, I want different crowds. Like I want different people.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I want to see how other people react to my material.
Right.
Because then I can figure out if it plays to a bit of a wider audience.
Right.
Or if I need to, or if it only plays to like a Long Island, New York crowd.
Right.
Which is something to be fair, and it's nothing against anybody who's like does predominantly Long Island comedy. I know a bunch of comedians that do that, and they're hilarious. But I wanted to make stuff that wasn't just Long Island funny. You know what I mean?
No, I get you, 100%.
But like, I think I'm going sort of doing the opposite of what you said. With you have your material and you're doing more observational. I feel like I was doing observational stuff, and now I'm trying to put more of myself in there. And you actually started like that,
right?
Which is,
almost all of my yeah. Do I have some silly jokes?
Yeah, you have
jokes,
some great
whatever.
silly jokes.
But like my core, my meat and potatoes for most of my stuff is mostly about me.
You have a
whether
great
it's my mental
joke,
health,
and
my weight, whatever it is.
And
right?
you have a great joke that I love this joke. I was going to bring it up just because I was curious what the inspiration for it was. But when you have this thing, it's like friends who have you have this joke about friends who have kids, and I won't do the bit because I'll butcher it. But friends who have kids and how quick to tell you how tired they are. You know, it's like, oh, try having a kid, whatever it is, like that.
Yeah, my it was me. It was me making fun of a certain a circle, let's say a local comedy contest.
Okay.
That may or may not be going on right now at this time. And I basically say, like, I don't have comedy competition experience, but I have competition experience.
Yeah.
Because everyone always has to. I mean, you ever have the audacity to yawn in front of someone that just had a kid? You know, like you just yawn, and they go, "Oh, you think you're tired? You don't know what tired is until you have a kid." You know, like, and they just offer up, like, everyone wants to be a victim.
Yeah.
No matter what, you know, everyone's got it worse than you.
Yeah,
like, you know,
you're absolutely right.
Like I know the tag to that is like if you hang out with someone that does like construction or any kind of like manual labor.
Oh, they can't wait to tell you.
They can't wait to tell you. So it's like if you're about to lead the bar, you go like, oh, I gotta go, man. I gotta get up at 7. They go 7. I've had lunch already. But I said, fuck you. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, they want it to be like oh 7. I remember my first job.
Because I did fucking
fuck yourself.
I did fucking construction stuff. I did like hard labor for a while, and I remember the same thing. You get these fucking lines these guys would come out with. Of just like, what time are you gonna come by? It's like, I don't know, 8:30. 8:30. Half the day's gone by.
Right?
Then.
Yeah, go fuck
no,
yourself.
It's not.
It's like I get up at 4. It's like screw you. Like doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what time you got to get up.
Yeah.
They've been there for an hour and a half already,
exactly.
and you're a pussy.
You're a pussy.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like fuck you guys. I hate them.
It's like they're gonna be like at the bar, just like, yeah, you're gonna get up at 7. I'm gonna stay here all night, keep drinking, go right to the job site afterwards. You fucking pussy.
That's exactly.
And you're like, that's not what a healthy person does.
Right. But yeah, that's where that came
man.
from. Just people just having to compete with you when you didn't even ask them.
But that's great.
You didn't even ask them.
Because you run into people, especially in the state of New York, specifically Long Island. You will run into those people all the time. Yeah. Between 4 and 7 o'clock at every local bar, you'll definitely run into them. But that's great, and like the fact that you can do that you draw from like regular stuff from your life is really cool because so many people are afraid to talk about themselves, and it's great that you it's great that you took relationship stuff, which can be really sensitive for people. Like I understand that. Right. I have stuff that I'm like still like I don't talk about that, but I'm working on it. But like the fact that you that was your sort of your first instinct, that's great, man.
Right. I think it was just something that I needed to. Something I bottle my shit up all the time. So
I get it.
Comedy's a way for me to just kind of air it out without you knowing it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm dumping a lot of stuff on the laps of these people every single night.
It's your
on
therapy
night. But
session.
it's like exactly. But I don't. I try not to play it that way. I don't want it to be a pity party. I don't want you to feel bad for me. I want you to relate.
I don't feel bad.
I don't want you to. Nor should you. Nor should you. Yeah. I just want you to relate. That's what that is.
So, in bringing more of yourself into stuff, is there some aspects of your personality that you have yet to bring in to your comedy that you would like to? Like before we actually recorded, we were talking how you're a big Star Wars fan and everything like that. Like I know nerd comedy is kind of niche and everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you could just go up there and be like, there's a lot to make fun of. But would you ever try to bring some of that into your comedy, or is that sort of like?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's one of those things where I have to kind of play the room.
Yeah.
If I know, if I know it'll work, I might as, I mean, but again, it'd be one of these things that I would have to write.
Yeah.
And have to unfortunately practice in front of rooms that I know they're gonna look at me like I got 1,000 goddamn heads. But the good news is a lot of like what I would call like the nerd comics, like the guys that are into all that stuff.
Yeah.
It only takes one of them to be there.
It's true.
And then you can just lock eyes with that one guy, and if he's laughing, all right, he's my sample.
Yeah.
He's my sample.
Every once in a while, I'll throw a wrestling joke in there, and if like Pat is there,
right? Exactly.
He'll be like, "Here's my one guy."
It's like there's like a small handful of the guys that are like they're into they're into the comic books, they're into all the stuff. Yeah. So if I start saying if I'm going in that direction, I got to make sure one of those guys are there
at the very least, because you have one person,
right? Because it's got to be generic enough with the average person. If it's like some weird deep reference, I got to make sure the right people are there. Like I got to make sure the right people are there.
Dude, I'm not going. No, I don't think. Nor should I think anybody should go up there and be like, so in Empire, this weird thing, like.
I was trying to. Actually, funny. So actually, now that I mention it, so I was trying to work on this thing where I work on. I do a bunch of material about how I like to stay in like astrology and like how people identify with that kind of shit, right? So
I have an astrology joke. It's different, but I have like an astrology.
Yeah, so like the one that I'm working on now, it's how I'll play along with the basics. You know, so if someone's like, "Oh, I'm a Capricorn, I'm a this," I'll play along, whatever. But when they start getting into like planets and rising moons and shit, I'm like, "All right, then." I'm like, "All right, now you're just a goddamn weirdo." You know, like so. My logic with that is my equivalent is an average person that maybe just have seen the Star Wars movies or just familiar with it. They can sit at dinner with me and be like, if you were a Star Wars character, who would you be or what would you be? Yeah. If I say I'd be a pilot, a Jedi, a bounty hunter, they'd be like, all right, that's cool. They'll play along. But once I get into like, well, I think I'd be a gray Jedi Guardian. And I get into like a real specific part of the lore.
Exactly.
And like I did this part where like for 30 seconds I went on this rant about why in theory I would be this at Mike's and I lost them every single time.
Wait, I think I saw you do this like early on.
I lost them. This is relatively new, I think.
Okay, all right. I saw somebody do Star Wars jokes.
Because when I make fun of the astrology stuff, like I eye the people that roll their eyes immediately and then I lean in.
Yes.
You know, so it's like I know they hate me anyway and I'm going to lose them in any second. But once I get into the like, but the thing is though, like I say it in the context of a date.
Yeah.
So then when I lose them, I'm like, you would never go on a date. You would be gone. You know what I'm saying? Like I pretend like, like I just woke up from the like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like
people here. Shit.
I'm at the date. Like, oh wow, this is what I sound like to people. So I play it in the sense where the crowd is on the other side of that table with me at that date.
Yeah.
While I'm talking about being a gray Jedi Watchman, and then like, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, see how weird this got? You'd never go out with me ever again. And then I'm able to bring it back. But the thing is, though, like, I just got stares, or if it's at certain places where they got the attention span of a goldfish. So if you don't have them for 3 seconds, they're somewhere else, you know? So, so I've tried.
You've tried. Well, there it is. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, it's like, because I've thought that too, because I'm like a huge wrestling. I love professional wrestling.
Right.
And like, there's a million times where the most I can get out of something, I'm like, if I make like a Macho Man reference, most people know what that is. Hulk Hogan, you know, like there's like 5 guys I can mention that
Chris
they're
Benoit.
like, absolutely, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong, right? No, exactly.
If I say like, you know what, I really wanted to Chris Benoit this bitch, people are like, I know what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I understood that.
Murder,
reference.
death, kill your whole family. Yes, but you're not wrong. I guess it's a fucking. But like, for the most part, I'm not going to go in there and talk about how Shawn Michaels' return after his back surgery was actually better than his original run in '92.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
And I'm gonna try to make jokes about that, about how he's lost his smile. People are like, what the fuck is this asshole talking about? Lost his smile? Ew. Like
it was a.
It's my wrestling fans that like my 3 wrestling fans.
No. I'm in a small group chat with a couple of fellow comics. And we were talking about, like, I don't know, something that happened at a mic. I think a fight broke out, like not
all the time,
not like among the comics, but like among the crowd, like a crowd, whatever. So we just started making all these references about like this comic's like, and then this comic kicked someone through a barbershop window, and then this, like, we just started making all these like, he's like, and then this comic walked in to bust through the door, but he tripped and fell and made an ass out of himself. We're making all these like random wrestling promo jokes, like, and it was fucking funny as hell. And if you don't get it, it's like. But that's where you lose me, though, because I was a big fan from, like, 6 to 16.
Yeah.
So, like, right when the Attitude Era ended is when I kind of just I just kind of lost interest. Yeah. And I dated someone for a little bit, a couple years later, that was really into it. So I was watching it then for a little bit. And then I lost interest again. So it's like, and I don't have any kids, and it's not really, you know, anybody that I know is gone now, you know, or like retired. Like, I think.
Christ, you sound like my dad talking about his experience in Vietnam. No, I don't go out anymore.
I wouldn't know anybody. If you watched if I watch wrestling now, I wouldn't recognize. You know, I wouldn't really
say that, but like, I don't know. Like, so you watched? There's a couple guys that like are still like. Remember Sting?
Yeah, of course.
Sting's still doing it.
Oh, Sting with his hair starts back here now. He's just got like one little. He looks like my strong hand from.
He does. Oh fuck. Scary Movie 2?
Yeah,
what's
Chris
his name?
Elliott.
Chris Elliott.
Yes.
I will use my strong hand.
Take my strong hand. Holding the bat with the strong hand.
Much. He sticks his whole hand in the mashed potatoes. Everybody's like, oh, God, it's all wet.
I like these now though because I still like I guess I my internet algorithm, the reels and the stuff that show up are like random like behind the mat stuff, Dark Side of the Ring.
Everybody loves wrestling documentaries.
So like I love that stuff. So I love hearing just how batshit insane everybody was. Like I love because when you're a kid and it's real to you still, you look right past that. Like you don't realize like like I saw this going back a few years though. Jake the Snake was on Rogan. And he was just telling these stories that, like, I remember watching this stuff as a kid.
Talking about Macho Man.
But the background of it, the backstory behind it was like, that is insane. Like, that's fucking crazy. You don't realize it.
I'm like, because there's some of my friends get like, they get like challenges. Like, I could beat that wrestler off. I'm like, why would you challenge any of these guys? Like, especially like back then, like, there was a time and place and like not too long ago where if the wrestlers were at a bar and somebody went up to them and said it was fake, your job was to punch that guy and beat the shit out of him. You had to win that fight. So you could prove to him that wasn't fake.
Right, exactly.
That's an insane. Imagine if we were all comics, right? As comics, if somebody said that we weren't funny, we had to just stand up and start doing jokes in their face real hard. Real hard. Like you had to make them laugh. That's an insane way to live your life.
That is pretty nuts.
And I always tell people, I'm like, don't fuck with these guys, man. Frank Mir just gave a fucking interview. We was talking about how he says like wrestlers have like the toughest schedule or like mentally they have it tougher than anybody else.
Okay.
And everything like that. And he was like, I couldn't do the schedule. I couldn't do the wackadoo shit they have to do every day and out. He's like, we go in and we fight one time and don't get me wrong, that's really tough. But like, I met guys in that business that just fall on tacks every day.
Right, that's just,
you know what I mean?
They just fall on tax.
Like every day,
they get hit with light bulbs just on a daily basis, right?
He goes, I fight for 5 minutes, and I'm listening. It's fucking tough, but like, you know what I mean?
But exactly, they're not setting shit on fire and throwing it.
And that's what's great about Dark Side. That's why everybody likes Dark Side of the Ring because that whole like weird wrestling community, fraternity, whatever the fuck it was, is like. It is now like it has the light shown on it. And I don't mean that in like a cancel it way. I love wrestling. It's just like I read a bunch of those books though. Like all this shit was always out here.
Right.
You know, you could read it. It's just like now Vice has found a way to turn it into Spark Notes.
Gotcha.
For everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's weird to me, like the stuff I hear when they're like, there was one guy who is like a crazy. I don't know. There's one Dark Side of the Ring. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about one guy who was like a producer and he was like a big drug addict. And one of the producers came over to his house to talk to him about the show, and he was like there. He was like covered in Vaseline. And he had like cowboy boots on, and there was hookers around him, and there was like a pile of cocaine on the table because it was the '80s.
And that's just
like that was like a Saturday afternoon for them, you know. So like that's I'm always like because I love wrestling, and I always said I'm like I wonder if it'd be like I've been a wrestler, but again, doing comedy in people's faces, that's an insane way to live your life, man.
That is pretty nuts.
So like, go ahead. I thought you're going to say something.
No, it's because it's still, regardless of what it is, it's still show business.
Yeah.
And the show must go on.
Yeah.
Just like we were just talking before, like it's acceptable if I get too hammered at a show. I mean, maybe not for wrestlers at the show, but if he's showing up at a gig
fucking
coked up, he's like, all right, just sober him up. He's got 6 minutes and then we'll make it work. You know what I'm saying?
He's not until the mid-fight, so you get him some coffee in the system.
Exactly. Like it's the show must go on. We'll worry about the consequences later.
Yeah, so man. And like,
I got to admire that.
I think entertainers in general, like you have to be. I mean, I'm definitely a little fucking wackadoo for doing this. I'm sure we all are. But then I feel like whatever level you're at, the crazier you are, and everything like that.
Right. Like, yeah, it's like the better I think you are, like the crazier you are. Like there's like there's that correlation between genius and fucking madness. You know, like
it's thin, but man, is it palpable? You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
like,
really.
Like you look at some guys, like people like to bring up the Kinison thing. Like you ever watch like any of the Kinison stuff?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
What people say is that Kinison was just that one special. Sometimes they'll say like he was that first special where he came out, he was different, he had the coat, and it's amazing. He's got that bit about mowing your lawn, about the dead body getting fucked in the morgue.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's a great bit.
Even like fuck, she had to get dead. That's right.
It's like, hey, what the hell?
It never fucking ends.
It never fucking ends, man. It's a great bit, but a lot of people say because after that, like. He was heavy into drugs and everything like that, and like the Las Vegas specials were just like him calling fucking women being like, "You fucking cunt!" Like
that's right. He would call guys his ex-girlfriends.
That's what it was.
That's right. That's all he would do.
I can't believe nobody talks about that. I don't know if that was like real or not. It seemed pretty real at the time, But like they brought people on stage and they were just like, curse out your ex-wife, and this dude would come on stage, and Kinnison would answer. It was like, Kinnison had that weird voice where he was just kind of like, "Hello, darling, how are you?"
He was a preacher.
Yeah, exactly.
So he had
He's like,
that. Yeah,
yeah, it's that whole mentality. But a lot of people say that those sucked, and it was just that one special. It was a flash in the pan. But if you look at any footage that came out, like right when he got clean, because he died in a car accident, he didn't die because of drugs. Yeah. He was working on new stuff, and he was probably going to put another special out that was going to be that thing again.
Right.
But I don't know. I think that's that genius thing. That's that. Was it genius or was it a flash in the pan? I'm like, I think it was genius. I think when you burn the candle at both ends.
Right. No, and it's like, unfortunately, those guys that live on that edge, they're not around forever.
No, they're not.
So
they shouldn't be.
But if they were, what would it have been like? Would it have been sad and tragic, or would he have figured it out, and would he still be, like some people, like, they just get more, they have their weird spots, but then they get more like someone like Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Like Chris Rock now has become way more like, or even like someone like Dave Chappelle. They still have their funny, they still have their silly. Dave Chappelle's still gonna tell like shit jokes and dick jokes and shit like that, but like he just is more, I don't even want to say polished. He's more like he's kind of like old man Dave now. You know what I'm saying? Like
I call it Uncle Dave.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's older. He just has a different.
He pontificates a lot.
Yeah, like it's a little bit, and that may not be your thing, but at the same time, it's almost as if he's aging. Like he's evolving.
Yeah.
In a way, you know, like even someone like Louis, he just looks that way, but he's always been like kind of weird and silly.
Exactly.
But someone like I said, someone like Dave, they just kind of, I don't know, they get a little grayer, they get a little wiser, and they're just, but
that goes along with the material too. Like that's evolving along with, like that's letting your material along. You're evolving with it,
right?
And like you're realizing that you can't say the same things that you'd said back when like someone like Dave Chappelle was doing Killing Me Softly. It's like that's not the same Dave Chappelle that fast forward to Sticks and Stones or The Closer.
Correct.
Or anything,
right? No, 100%
see exactly what you're saying.
But at the same time, he'll still tell like silly dick jokes. Like
I'll punch you right in the pussy.
You know what I'm saying? or just like one of them where it was just like when like that, like the dope head popped out of like the fucking garbage pail.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'll suck your dick for $5, man.
Hey, man.
Gross. Two.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he'll still do shit like that. He'll be in the middle of this serious social commentary and then just be like, ugh. Two.
But that's what I've always liked about
and that's
David.
what that's what's great. As
soon as it gets a little serious, he just kind of fucking pulls the rug out from underneath.
Right.
He has a point to make. He makes his point. But for the most part, if it's a bit,
you're still making them laugh. It's still.
What's the guys that you like your influences you watched, people that you consider like your favorites or whatever? Who's your favorites?
Well, my favorite was always I was always a George Carlin fan since day one.
Me too.
Fan since I was about 11 or 12.
That was the first stand-up I ever saw.
I don't know if it was the first one I ever saw. I really couldn't tell you exactly the first one I ever saw, but I remember it was actually a funny story. So it goes in a weird circle. So my dad is a big. I grew up listening to the Beatles, right? My dad's a big Beatles fan, and I always knew growing up who John and Paul were. Didn't really know who the other two were, and then both George Carlin and Ringo Starr played Mr. Conductor in Shining Time Station, Thomas the Train, and I'd watch as a kid.
I did too.
And my dad would go, "Oh, that's Ringo. That he was a Beatle." So then I just assumed. So now I'm like, all right, I know John, I know Paul, I know Ringo. I don't know this George guy. So I just assumed as like a 6-year-old kid that George Carlin
was the other Beatle?
The other Beatle, because there's a Beatle. You know what I'm saying?
Are you fucking kidding me?
I swear to God, I just made that assumption because I didn't know who George Carlin was as a 7-8-year-old kid. Whatever.
That's
I just thought that was whatever. So then, sometime later, I'm with my family and the conversation of the Beatles come up, and I'm trying to act like I'm one of the adults and I know the Beatles. Like, oh, here's John Lennon and there's George Carlin, and like the music stopped. Everyone looked at me like, how do you know who George Carlin is? And I go, oh, that's not a Beatle? He's like, no. So at that moment, I knew he wasn't a Beatle, but I knew he was somebody. Because everyone was asking like an 8-9-year-old kid, like, how do you know who this guy is?
Yeah.
And they're like, And then if I can totally age myself, I first started downloading his stuff off of Napster when I was about 11 or 12.
I had Napster.
I had like Class Clown. I had a bunch of these different albums, and like that was it. He was always I
had Carlin at Carnegie that I ripped off there. That was the first one that I got off, like the one that I pirated. Yeah.
So it was just, he was just always, I've been a George Carlin fan since I was about 12, 13 years old.
Respect, yeah. He's really like one of those guys. Did you see the HBO special?
I've seen everything.
I mean the documentary they put out on him.
The HBO documentary. No, that I have not. But
it's real good. And if you're a fan, like they cover, like I always made a point of being like, that dude was so funny because everybody kind of knows him as like this sort of, like you said, like he's going on some poignant. It's actually quite. Dave Chappelle is very much sort of like the new age Carlin in a lot of ways, just
right?
the way that he
sense, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but like George would. People always forget the really silly shit that George would do that I
Right.
loved.
It was
where he would just be like, sometimes I go like this.
right.
I don't know why.
Right, and it just even in all of them, like in every single one, like, and when you look at it from a long distance, like one of the things about it that I like is like he the special he did, You Are All Diseased.
Oh, great! It's a
when
great
he
one.
goes on that whole thing about you're fucking weak and you got a fucking weak immune system.
Fucking weak and you
that
got
was
a fucking
right
weak
after
immune
his wife
system.
died. From
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? So that was he drew this genius out of all
Like,
this tragedy in
yeah,
his
you
life,
know?
and like someone, like I said, unfortunately, someone like Kennison only has this amount of time. Carlin did this shit for 50 fucking years, and when you look at it from a long distance and you look at the whole timeline of his story, what was going on in his life up against these specials that were coming up, like it was really, really insane. And like any interview that you ever had, they said he was always up until his last day rehearsing. He was like,
isn't that crazy?
He mentored so many comics, and the one stipulation was nobody can know we had this conversation. You know, like he was a mentor to so many, but he wanted no credit for it.
He was the reason. Did you watch any of the when he died? I think Louis C.K. was there, and Louis C.K. said he was the reason that I started doing a different hour.
Right,
every year.
That what do you call that? When he got the Mark Twain Award, right?
Yeah.
That thing with Kevin Smith. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
He said, "I'm gonna," and George received that award, I think, posthumously.
Oh yeah, that was the thing,
which is crazy to me.
Yeah, and what's funny, I think it was like the whole time there was like this empty leather chair, and I think Louis was like, I just realized now that's supposed to be him.
Yeah,
you know it was.
But he sat out there and he goes, because he said after he does the special, he throws everything out,
right,
and he starts from scratch, which is terrifying for me to hear
right.
that. Like, what? You don't have something to like lean back on,
right?
No, you just because he was such a writer, like
that was it. And like when I first started comedy, he was my inspiration in that sense where I wrote everything out, and and that had to be, and that's how it was. So if you look at my very first notebooks, it's just these insane essays. Yeah, because I felt like I had to like just memorize the essay because that's what George did.
Yeah,
and one of my other, I want to go back to
go back to George, but
the guy that because everyone's like, who's your favorite and who's your guy? Like, who do you channel when you're up there?
Yeah,
I'm a Doug Stanhope guy.
Wow.
I love Doug Stanhope.
Dancer.
So he's the guy that when I'm up there, he's the guy that it's like if I get a little too drunk, I can
Doug Stanhope.
Yeah, like he's the guy that I channel the onstage presence because unfortunately I'm just not going to be as smart and sharp and witty.
I don't think anybody
as
that's
George
what makes
Carlin. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not trying to be like I'm only trying to be me, but I feel like I'm probably more Doug than George anyway. Like in
Doug's
life,
a lower bar to hit.
But like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like I would have more of that presence than like a George Carlin kind of presence, you know. But like Stanhope
is putting a lot on yourself too.
No,
like
I know that. It's just that's how it is. But
I feel like there's like guys that you hang your hat on stuff, especially when you start out. You're like, you know, because you look. I definitely looked for a set of ideals. I'm like, no, this is what I hang my hat on. And the only I used to have like so many stupid rules, and now the only thing I hang my hat on is what was said at the beginning of our episode: is go to different things, be consistent, just keep doing it. That's the only thing that I'm like, this is how I believe it should go. You know what I mean? I'm
finally like hitting that tier where if like I feel like I'm qualified to give basic level advice like that to like new comics because I've had a lot of new comics will come up to me and be like, you're so smooth, how do you, because like I'm just like anyone will tell you I'm the same guy here that I am on stage, like, and that's something that I really work towards, you know, and that's something. And another inspiration for that was someone like Patrice O'Neal.
Oh, fuck
where like you knew his stuff was extremely calculated, but just the way he would just present himself, like,
because it was so simple.
It almost looked it was coming off the top of his head every single time, but he knew what he was saying.
Exactly.
You know,
but
so it's
doing
like,
a bit over and over again until it's ingrained in your head, where you can say it and do variations of it.
Right, where you don't,
because you know the beginning, middle, and end so well.
Exactly. You just know how it is, and you don't have to say it. Whereas if you listen to like any number of like now, especially a lot of these things leak. If you listen to like,
I hate it when it leaks.
But if you listen to like an old Carlin special, for example, and then you listen to like when somebody recorded him at like a theater the night before or the month before,
it's not the same.
It's almost a lot of it's almost exactly this, like his cadence.
Oh, I'm saying like as far as like the crowd, because he used to just try stuff on the road.
Right, no. But when it's the same exact material,
because he's
the
rehearsing.
Cadence is dead on every single time
because he's rehearsing. That.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but still, like somebody like But like this, one like Patrice just kind of makes it seem like it's coming off the top of his head all the time, and that's the challenging thing for me every single time. You know, I want it. I don't want it to seem calculated. I want it to seem like I just went up there and I just ranted for 5 minutes. I made it all flow, but in reality, in my head, it's like I'm doing these 6 things, and that's the only real piece of advice that I tell people. I go to Mike's, record yourself. It's gonna be awful. Dare to suck.
Standard advice.
Dare to suck. But that's what they got to hear, you know.
Yeah, dare to suck. It's just. I have a couple friends that always come up to me and they're like, "I'm gonna try it," and I go, "There's mics." I literally send them. I text them that moment. I'm like, "These are all the mics. You can go to any of these mics."
Right. Yep.
I said, "This is," and then they're like, "Yeah. But I don't want to suck," and I'm like, "It's a mic."
Okay, well, then you're in the wrong. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's gonna happen.
I was a little fucking hammered.
You're gonna suck.
I was a little drunk at a party one time, and some that had that same conversation. And they said that to me, and I was a little fucking twisted. And I just go, and then you should delete that text that I sent you
exactly.
because you're just talking to me to make conversation. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
what sucks is when you get somebody that right out the gate is good, and they have the presence, and they're likable, and they're good, and then by like that 4th or 5th mic,
something happens.
They eat a bowl of shit,
and that's it.
And then you don't hear from them ever again. It's like, no, bro, come back, just write more, come back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you feel bad for
everybody because I don't like this stupid mentality that people are like, I'm not gonna bomb, and I'm like, you're going to,
right?
And like, just when it happens, laugh about it afterwards and order a drink. Because
exactly.
That's all you can do about it. But, like, don't let it deter you. Because it can be. I remember one time, the first time, like, when I was, like, I got no laughs at anything. And then I was just like, I guess I quit, right? Like, I guess I'll be a carpenter now. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, what else can I change my life into? You know, but, like, I just kept doing it, you know? And, like, you're right. A lot of people will that'll scare the fuck out of them.
Right, yeah. Because they ride off that high of I'm funny, you know, whatever. Everyone's been telling me I'm funny,
they
so
start
I'm funny.
walking around with different energy after
You're
that.
right, exactly. and then they teeter off like we all do, and they just don't come back another time because it's a difference where someone will tell you, "Oh man, you're funny, you do stand up," because you made your boys laugh at the bar every single night. Yeah. That doesn't always translate.
Bar stories never translate.
It doesn't translate. Remember, there was one time at Ziggy's. I will say though, there was a guy that and you hear it from time to time. A guy came in last place in fantasy football. So he had to do stand-up. Like, that was the thing. So he showed up. All his boys showed up. And I'll tell you, we all paid attention because we thought this guy was just going to be a total douche.
Did he work on his stuff a little bit? He had stuff?
I can't remember, but he did pretty well. He was funny and entertaining, and he did his time. He went up there.
But look at the atmosphere of that, right?
You know,
his friends it's punishment, but his friends are there. And every human being is like this. If you give somebody some attention and you put some kind of whatever spotlight on them, then they're going to be like, oh. And they're going to get comfortable, and they're going to be like, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? It may not happen every time they do it.
Right, exactly.
Is the key to it, but
this guy just did surprisingly well. You know, we were all proud.
I'm very happy.
We all went to him. We're like, "Dude, good for you. Sorry you came in last place, but you got something there.
Comedy's better than your fucking fantasy football.
Better than your picks."
Oh my god. But I think I love that. I love when I see random people succeed at that shit. You know what I mean? Because most of the time, it's probably them just trying it. And if they can, if they just want to go up there and get a few laughs, and either they're going to continue it or not, great. You know what I mean? Like, I love when I see that shit happen. I'm never mad when I see I'm never like, oh, some outsider.
Right? No.
You know what I mean?
I welcome all.
Anybody.
I want everybody a part of it.
Which is what I tell my friends all the time. And everybody come up to me, they're like, I want to try it. And I'm like, you can try it so easily. It's easier. It's probably just as easy to try heroin as it is to do comedy.
Right.
On Long Island, like you might as well try comedy. It's much healthier. You know what I mean? So like it's good. I like hearing stories like that, man. So it's good to know.
Great.
We're double back down to Carlin and everything. Is it just Carlin that you're a big fan of? Is there anybody else? I mean, that's your number one.
I mean, Carlin was always just like
another one.
Carlin was always, but like I grew up, like I came up like that golden era of like Opie and Anthony when all those like
it was at 2000 to like 2010,
the early 2000s. Like I remember, I graduated high school.
Ron and Fez. You listen to Ron and Fez?
So I graduated high school 2002. And when I went to school and I had a job, it was just during that time where for my commute to work, I had Opie and Anthony. For my commute home, I had Ron and Fez.
What a great,
so it was like an amazing time. So that's where I got to learn about all those. I'm a big Nick DiPaolo fan.
I love
DiPaolo. I've seen Nick. I mean, he moved now, but he's probably the one comic I've seen more than anybody else.
I fucking love.
I've
Nick
seen
DiPaolo.
him twice a year at Brokerage for years and years.
Yeah,
Norton, Keith Robert, all those guys from just.
DiPaolo had this great joke. Louis C.K. was on some fucking podcast talking about when he roomed with when he used to be roommates with DiPaolo. He came up with him.
Gotcha.
And he says he loves Nick because Nick can find the joke in anything.
Right.
And he says how he was talking about Nick, how he found this article. He found this article about how in certain parts of the world they have these like they'll serve chilled monkey brains. You know, that's like monkey brains is a delicacy. And then Nick DiPaolo, without missing a beat, just goes, send my back to the kitchen. I think it's retarded. I'm like, that's so fucking funny. Like,
do you know he's in a Mitch Hedberg joke?
Is he?
Yes, he is. So he shared an apartment, like not an apartment, but he was like neighbors with Mitch Hedberg when they were in L.A. And that joke where he talks about how my neighbor didn't like loud music and it bothers me because I like loud music. So whenever he would knock on the door, I'd mess with his head. I'd say, "Go around. I cannot open the wall." That neighbor is Nick DiPaolo, and Nick DiPaolo will tell you that. If you Google that, if you go on the YouTube, it's just like Nick DiPaolo, Mitch Hedberg. It's him on some interview telling that story about how he was one night like he would just because him and his girl would have like these fucking Mitch Hedberg and his girlfriend would have like these hippie jam band sessions at like 3:00 in the morning, and Nick's like, "I'm trying to sleep, goddammit." So he felt, but then like one day, somebody local was like, he does a joke about you, and like apparently like how we all have like if we write our set list we'll have like a 1 or 2 word phrase
just to trigger it.
Yeah. His apparently that said DiPaolo. Apparently it would say DiPaolo, and that was his joke to be like, "Go around. I cannot open the wall." I don't know if you have a doorknob on the other side, but here there's nothing.
Oh my God.
That is Nick DiPaolo that he
Wait. What are you doing, Chris? Are you putting up?
When I moved.
Yes.
Is this it? Yeah, play it.
This is great.
Yeah, perfect.
This is great.
We don't have to get charged for this. This is fine.
When I was in LA, I moved a couple times. I moved to Sierra Bonita here in West Hollywood. Oh, yeah. And I moved into the shitty building, and the guy goes, and this is before anybody who knew Mitch was, or he goes, "You're a comedian?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, there's a stand-up comedian that lives right next to you." And I go, well, "What's his name?" He goes, "I don't know, Mitch something or whatever." And I'm like, I never fucking heard of him. And then, about I'd say a month and a half later, 2 months later, I'm watching TV. I was on the road somewhere, and my neighbor's on Letterman. And I go, "This guy's as funny as anybody I've ever fucking heard in my life. This guy lives next to me." And then he did a joke about me, because I used to bang on his wall and stuff. He used to play guitar.
No shit.
They used to have these sing-alongs and shit, and I'd bang on the wall and go, "Shut the fuck up." Shock rock. Yeah, so
crazy.
From the improv. She was in New York one night. She goes, she was there to help Mitch put his Letterman set. She goes, he has a bit. It says DiPaolo on the napkin. It says DiPaolo on the napkin. And that's the bit about me banging on the wall. And he goes, "There's no doorknob. Come around. There's something about the door open, the wall open." I loved it. He's banging on the wall. I'm trying to watch a football game, and they're doing sing-alongs.
That's great.
So bad. I remember leaving him a case of Heineken or something.
That's cool. That's funny, man.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's insane.
That's
right?
crazy. That's like inside baseball.
No, it
comedy.
really is. It really is.
Oh, and I've loved Nick DiPaolo. I never knew that. That's fucking crazy, dude. Oh my God. That's like, I don't know. That's like the world I fantasize about being in. And I'm like, one day I'll be in fucking, I'll be in a fucking Pat French joke or some shit.
Right, no, exactly. I mean? Yeah, but you never know. People that you have on you've had on your show. They might make it big.
I love the community.
I love the scene so much.
It really
I really do. It's
it's a crazy scene.
It's insane. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's like I best describe it as like it's like a community college class.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we're all in it for some weird thing. We're not always there every single day.
None
but
of
it's
us
just
are
like,
similar, really.
We're not similar at all, but it's this one thing that all right, hey, did you get that done yesterday? Yeah, how was how was that?
We all
assignment?
get along, but it's weird how everybody gets along.
Yeah, it's weird. And it's like it's always like Like the big complaint that so many people have, and I thought I had it when I first started, was that when you're an outsider looking in, it comes off as extremely cliquey.
It's not, and you're right.
But it's
I
not.
Had the same
it comes
experience.
off that way. It's only because once you get yourself into the fabric, you're amongst the rest of us. But because the range is so much,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm 38, so it's like, I mean, yeah. Do I like all the guys that are in their early mid 20s? Yeah, but like.
I'm not in my early to mid 20s.
Exactly. It's like, at a show, if I run into them randomly, we will hang. I won't ignore them, obviously.
of
Whatever.
course.
Everything's great. But, like, I don't have, I wouldn't hit one of these guys randomly and be like, I'm getting out of work at 2 in the morning. You want to come? You know what I'm saying?
Man,
like,
yeah, exactly.
And just those people tend to gravitate, whether it's like where you're from, there's so many different, like, groups of friends that just evolve out of it that it just comes off clicky.
It does.
But like I said, once you're brought into the fabric, once you show up and you show that you're just down, you're in.
Same.
You're in. It doesn't matter. It's just
because like
we're all lonely with no friends.
Because I'm like when I first started, I was like, wow, there's like Nassau people and there's Suffolk people, and then I realized that there really is no Nassau people and Suffolk people. It's just I was on the outside. And once I got in, I'm like, well, now I know all the comedians and everything like that.
Yeah, well, geographically, I consider you a Suffolk person because you were out. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not
geographically. I consider you trash, but like. Because I'm from the Hamptons, motherfucker. Anyway.
Yes.
What is this? Too much sugar.
It's a good port. It's a good port.
That's what I did when I first got into all those scenes. Like, you're all trash. Like, every one of you is trash. No, but like I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite people in comedy ever is Vinny Buscemi.
I love Vinny.
And Vinny lives in like fucking Montauk. Like he lives in the lighthouse, I think. Like he just like
he lives further out than I do.
I never see him, and I'm like, where do you live? And he mentions some random town that I gotta look up every single time. I'm like, bro, you were on the North Fork, dude.
I live in the ye old.
So like when I do get to see him on the rarest of occasions, it is always a blast. But like he's that's what you mean, like my Suffolk guy. Like
dude, he's one of those guys that I don't even see him that much. But and like when I do see him, it's one of those where it's weirdly a treat. I can't describe it. It's just a treat to see him. Like
he's just one of these guys. Again, like we'll talk comic books, we'll talk. And he's one of these guys.
Talks X-Men with me last time I saw him.
Whatever your thing is, he'll talk to you about it. And
so he talks to you about Star Wars and shit.
Yes, we'll talk about. He got me into a comic book series.
Which one?
Dr. Aphra.
I know that one.
So he got me into that, and he's just like I said, one of these guys where like once you see him, big smile comes on your face. Like, hey, what's up? Bring it in, bro.
There's this thing when you go to certain shows, and there's like sometimes you don't because the lineups will change like up until you walk through the door sometimes.
Yeah.
So like I love when I walk in there and I see somebody that I'm like, I didn't know you're on the show.
Right, no,
and
exactly.
I'm like, it's the best feeling. I don't know what it's like. I can't describe it. I don't know. It's like you didn't know there was going to be a substitute teacher that day or some
right,
shit.
Exactly. You go into a show like I don't know this person or that person.
Yeah.
These two people don't even show up.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, yes.
And then somebody comes down to get a spot, and you're like, oh my god, he's down here. I haven't seen him in so long.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing I love about it because it is this camaraderie, and you're right, it is like a fucking community theater class,
right?
Because it's just like we're all children, none of us are adults,
right?
Like we all talk about like we have jobs, which we all barely have,
right? Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
even the adults barely have. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like it's like, what are you?
It's at the end of the day, we all sit there at the bar and we're like, how you doing this week? He's like, good. I got this new joke about dating apps and
right, exactly. I'm working on this fucking thing.
Did you see Spider-Man? I saw Spider-Man. Yeah.
Right. It's right. No, it's the same. It's the same thing.
But I can't have that conversation with a lot of other people in my life. Like I mean this. Like when I go to the shows and I see guys like you there and everything, it's like it is like you get to be yourself and everything like that. And this is not me being like. Weird, especially now. You're a couple years in. I'm a couple years in. I definitely feel like comfortable around a lot of these guys, and it's great when I get to hang out with them and everything.
And it's also like so many people at your regular job or your regular life are going to be like, "Oh, how's the comedy going? How's the comedy going?" But I'll tell you this: no one in comedy asks me how my day job's going because they know I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like that's the best part. They know, like they're not asking. I mean,
they say literally anything else.
Anything else? They'll ask you if they know you're going through some personal shit.
Yeah, that's different.
They'll make it more awkward by being like, "How's this going?" I'd rather that than you ask me how my stupid fucking dumb customer service job is that I loathe. Like Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because whatever you do, because you do this, it's not like anybody else that has a regular job. It's like, this is what they do forever now.
Right,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? But we're trying to do something else. So whatever we have to float us by
Right.
is just like...
Whatever collective conscious we have that brings us doing this all
Yes.
the time is what it is. Like, I can't describe it.
You're right.
It's just what
it's
it
an
is.
energy.
We all have this weird one thing in
Yeah.
one commonality that I couldn't describe it.
I've been friends with Billy Geyer for years. He was one of the first friends I made. He's I'm very close with him. I've told him about like my dark thoughts, like all of the shitty relationship shit, the bullshit with my depression, and never once has I told him what I do for a living. Like,
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, he knows I have a job. That's it.
Right,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
But like, it doesn't matter and everything, man. So, man, it really is like, it really like once you get in it, it's like this little thing. You do feel like this is neat because you interact with people in like a different way than you did once you kind of get in there and everything. So, Long Island scene's good. I do want to circle back to this before just because. Hey, Chris, what are we at?
About 50.
Perfect. I'd be remiss because we started with this too. I've been remiss if I didn't talk to you a little bit because I am a nerd.
Yes.
I'm a nerd. And I believe in comedy, it's a little different because I think everybody has their separate nerddoms, and we all kind of come together over our own specific nerddom. But like, there's like a little bridge there.
Right.
But you're a Star Wars guy, yes?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, you're a Star Wars guy.
yes.
So like, and I ask you this because there's so many things happening with Star Wars nowadays. Like it's literally like Disney. Disney was just like a Star Wars thing until you die.
Right.
Until you die, which is a crazy world to live in. So I'm curious, what is your view of like the new regime, like everything they've done, TV shows, movies, and everything? What's your opinion of it as a Star Wars fan?
I mean, overall, I think Disney is not a good thing that happened for Star Wars. I think that it was like in the beginning, I was positive because I was like, I grew up during like that golden era of those classic animated, like Lion King, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. I had
Disney Afternoon.
My sister was 2 years younger than me, so like Little Mermaid, all those
Darkwing
things,
Duck.
all of that shit, right? So at the time, Disney never did me wrong, but now...
Ooh, wow, a time when they did things right, you're right.
But then I got to but I didn't know about political agendas and whatnot, and it's like...
CEOs.
You need to understand, it's like, I know Disney, it's like Disney's a brand, but Lucasfilm's a brand also.
Yeah.
And just because they bought Lucasfilm brand doesn't mean it all of a sudden has to... You know what I'm saying? There's so many... You ever
Well, they did
realize-
so many drastic
But you ever realize
things.
that there's so many random companies that you realize that, they're owned by this company that has nothing to do with anything. Like, it would be like,
There's
Liquid Death, it's owned by
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson. Like, it has nothing to
There's
do
a-
with anything, but they let Liquid Death do their thing. They don't try to be a Q-tip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Disney, it's like, you gotta be in the mob. Like, you gotta...
but you're
it
right.
sucks. It's like...
There's a TV show called The Offer where they talk about like Warner Brothers Studio or Paramount
with
Studios.
The Godfather, I know.
Exactly.
I'm a bit of a mafia historian.
That's
I know
fine.
exactly.
I am a little bit of a
I
as
know
well.
exactly.
Yes.
Like some people are really into serial killers. I'm really into Cosa Nostra, so like I know a lot
It's
of
true
that
crime
shit
in
too.
general for me, for the record.
True, yeah, but that's more my specific
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
But
cool. I probably
know
am more serial
exactly
kill-
what you refer
I'm
to.
a white guy who's in the serial killers. You're a white guy who's in the
the
mobsters. It's
mafia.
fine. But in that show they talk about how there's like the producers on the actual film set, and then there's the owner of the studio, which is a dude who's German who owns a different company that mainly doesn't do movies. He just happens to own the movie studio.
Right.
That's what you're talking. That's what Disney, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but at the same time, they know they have this audience, so they know they're gonna watch it no matter what.
Yeah,
so you
you're
got
right.
somebody
It
like
really is.
You have someone like Dave Filoni that did, Clone Wars, and he did Clone Wars.
He did Rebels too, didn't he?
I want to say he did Rebels, but he was also like George Lucas's like protege. So it was like he
Really, because
made-
J.J. Abrams literally made it seem like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg fucked, and he was their kid.
I thought that J.J. Abrams was going to make a good Star Wars
he
movie.
pours himself a stiff drink.
I thought J.J. Abrams was going to make himself a good Star Wars movie because he made himself a decent Star Trek movie based on the fact that he hated Star Trek. So the fact that he just has no real emotional involvement, he can look at it objectively.
And make a
I
movie.
Thought maybe he could make something, whatever. And like, yes, was it a pretty much shot-for-shot redo of Episode 4?
Yes.
Was it nostalgic as fuck? Was it fan servicey as fuck?
Yes.
However, it could have gone in 1,000 different directions.
Yeah.
But because they didn't fucking decide to have 7, 8, and 9 be done all in one project, they fucked themselves up, you know. And I don't want to get into like political agendas and wokeness and whatnot. Like,
we're not doing that.
There's a lot of that in it too.
Oh,
unfortunately, like, and it's like,
well, you're right. You are right about that. I believe you are right about that to an extent. But I also think, like, it's just because I was one of those people that I saw Force Awakens, and I have this up and down. I don't hate Star Wars. I don't love it. It just exists to me.
Right.
And I go back to it every once in a while, and I'm like, sometimes I watch something, and it's really cool. And I'm like, that was really cool. Rogue One. We were talking about Rogue One before we started. Rogue One, I saw that. I'm like, and I had context for that. I had seen the original Star Wars. Didn't really know much other than that. These were the guys that steal the plan so they can blow that up in the first movie.
Right.
You know, and they did a great job. Cool. What really came off like a spy war movie.
right.
You know?
No, that was one of those movies where I'll tell anybody that even if you're not a Star Wars fan at all, or have
it's
the
a great
most
way to put it.
basic rudimentary understanding of Star Wars, you will like that movie.
Which is Star
Because
Trek too. It's a Star Trek thing.
It's a war, spy.
Yeah, it's got everything.
It's got a little bit of everything. Space battles. It's got
Easy
it
to
all.
understand.
And it's got Darth Vader.
Yeah, and
you
a
know?
really badass scene.
I will tell you though, the one thing about that movie that I did not like
What's that?
was when he's choking out Director Krennic and he's like, "Be careful not to choke on your aspirations." It's like, really. Vader speaks extremely ceremoniously. You know what I'm saying? He's like
suddenly he's got action movie one-liners.
Yeah, he's like Thor with a deep voice. You know what I'm saying? Do I look to be in a gaming mood? Like he's got that. He speaks very whatever.
He speaks like proverbs from the Bible.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to. Like I'm sure. I'm surprised like he didn't turn on his heels afterwards and go "got him" as he went inside. Like you don't. He doesn't do puns. Vader doesn't do puns.
Vader doing like
choke, baby. Exactly. Fuck you. Like that. That was the one thing I didn't like.
But I hate when they get cute. But that's that Disney thing. They have to have that kind of cutesy. It's one of the reasons I kind of got sick of the Marvel movies for a while. Where I'm like, again, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Where you're like, I'm gonna see it. That's why I tell my friends, it's like, how do you feel about this movie? I'm like, what do you want from me? I'm gonna see it. I'm a zombie. Like, I'm gonna go see it. Eventually, maybe not. I have softened a little bit. I won't go to the theaters as much, but when it's on demand, I'll be like, I'll rent this for $5, watch it tonight. It's either that or I touch myself and cry later.
I get you.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I'll watch Moon Knight or I'll watch all this shit. But like after a while, one of my biggest complaints. I'm like, everything looks the same.
Right. It was like, and it was one of these things where now it's at the point where if it didn't. Because I've exhausted all my Marvel knowledge years ago. Like now it's like, I grew up on like X-Men and like I know the basic whatevers. But like, for example, years ago when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I don't know anything about them at all. So I'm now learning everything new. Yeah. But like, WandaVision had kind of like a draw to it. Yeah. You know, Loki had a draw to it.
WandaVision was different.
But some of these other ones, it's like I'm like, do I really want to watch this anymore? Like, I don't know, for whatever reason.
It was the Eternals for me. I watched it and I'm like, I don't even care about this.
Yeah, I don't know. Care. I don't know what to watch next, to be honest with you, because like like I said, I don't care. Like I just do not care.
I'm gonna see it. Like I still haven't seen Love and Thunder. And, like, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. But I also feel like a lot of these Marvel films, like, I'm going to go see it once and that's it. And does that make the movie great?
No, I think it makes... I think it just makes, like, your overall interest in kind of waning just because of what they're doing. Because, since 1999, Episode 1, I've seen every single Star Wars movie in the theater at either midnight or night of the release. All right, since 1999, Episode 1.
Wow.
Episodes 1 through...
So you were there, Episode 1. I was there in Episode 1.
1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, Rogue One, Solo, some occasional re-releases.
Keep sticking to your fandom.
Right, but the thing is, though, I've seen all those movies multiple times in the theaters. Like, I would go up to 4 or 5 times sometimes before it even released to whatever. But this is also before streaming, where you now had to wait for it to come out on DVD.
It was on the cusp of streaming because Netflix was like 3 years out or 5 years out after the third one came out.
Right. So, like, if I saw Episode 3 in theaters 4 or 5 times, that wasn't necessarily weird because I had to wait 6 to 8 months for the DVD to come out.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't think about that now.
Whereas now it's like, all right, I'll miss it. It'll stream it, especially now that Disney owns everything.
Yeah,
it'll stream in 2 months.
I think Spider-Man Far From Home is on there now, wherever the fuck.
Exactly.
And it's been like 6 months and that movie was out.
But I'll tell you this: Episode 9, I saw one time in theaters, and that is it.
You were that burned by it?
I was so it was so awful. Like
that was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
right?
It was like I was also. Like I said, I was trying to give every movie the benefit of the doubt. I really, really was. But
then you just come off as an abused lover at that point.
We can just listen. We can do an entire episode where I
would
just
love
could
to do an
tear
entire. I
this shit
would love to
apart,
get
like-
you on here with my buddy Nick, who's like another big Star Wars guy, and just like watch you guys go back and
no,
forth.
that would be great. No, that would be really great because I don't have the patience on the internet to like type these comments back and forth because there's this stigma now where if
I
you
don't either, for the
if you
record.
don't like these these
you're a
new
piece of
movies,
shit.
it's because you just don't appreciate strong female characters. You don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I will.
I
talk
got
about,
yelled at for that.
I'll give you 100. I'll give you 10 strong female Star Wars characters now that are well written.
Yes.
She is written awfully.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But you
That's
can't
why.
say that.
But right, so and you just there's no point because once you make a fucking spelling error,
Yeah, then you're a fucking idiot who doesn't know
over.
shit.
It's over. So,
You used there instead of there, you piece of
it's
shit.
exactly asterisk your apostrophe re, and it's over.
Like
I
all of a
don't
sudden,
have the
everything
strength to
that
do
you've
it.
said is null and void because, like, clearly this man isn't educated like the rest of us
Right,
in the,
exactly.
in the Star
So-
Wars. But
Right.
it is, and I get to these points. Like I see some stuff that people say online, and I'll actually write the thing out, and I just go, I'm just going to delete this. Like I'm not putting this out here because if one thing is off, or if I'm kind of not right, or if they're going to bring up another thing, then I'm in this droning thing with
You're
this
just in this thing
fuckhead
now,
on some
exactly.
thread that I don't care about.
When in reality, you're not saying
care.
anything wrong by saying like, in a world where this is now because this is now cool now.
Being
I
a
don't,
nerd
know,
is
I don't know
cool.
about you. We're around the same age, but I don't know, 20 years ago,
Wasn't cool when I
20
was a
years
kid.
ago, you tried to talk about being a Grey Jedi Watchman.
No.
You got the shit kicked out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
comic books from when I was 5 till now. I didn't tell anybody until I was like 18.
Right, but now it's cool.
Yeah,
now it's
exactly.
cool. So we're in an era where there's such a market for it. Then where you don't have to like race swap or gender swap all these characters.
No, because the characters exist.
If they exist in the series, like in the comic series, like, I understand Miles Morales is Spider.
That's
Like, you know what I'm saying?
different.
Like, I
That's
understand Captain America, Samurai.
That's
I
different.
understand that was already part of the source material.
Exactly.
But to make a random character different just for the sake of doing it,
Yes.
that, you know what I'm saying? You have such a market for this. You can create your own fucking thing.
But it's my point. The
you know
point
what
I've
I'm
always
saying? Like,
said
where
is,
people will watch it,
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
What was the Superman thing when they were like, we're gonna do Black Superman, which I was like, there are Black Supermen. There's a couple Black Supermen from like different Earths and everything.
Right,
That's
exactly.
really cool. Are you gonna do that?
They
Or you-
did that
but because if
multiverse
you
thing
just make
way before,
yeah, exactly. But if you just make Clark Kent a different race, I'm like, but there's black characters that exist,
Right,
You
you're-
know, wouldn't you want to do that instead?
100%, right? There's no that just I don't know. I feel it. If anything, it's the opposite of progress. It's regression. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
Instead of when the conversation of Superman comes up or Spider-Man comes up, we talking about Peter Parker, we're talking about Miles Morales. You can talk about different versions of this person,
Yeah.
but if it's a brand new character that's black to begin with,
Yeah.
build it that way.
Exactly.
And
Like
that's
Black
what you have,
Panther.
and you build it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll never make Yellow Panther. Like,
No.
they'll never ever do that.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
of course
Like,
not.
they'll never ever do that.
Well, now Black Panther's Asian. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly. They'll never ever do that. It'll be
But
like a tiger. Like,
the
it's like-
idea of like, but you're right, and that's what bugs me about it so much. I'm like, and you can't. It's kind of the same thing when you make random characters women for no reason. Like in the Eternals, they made Ajax a woman, and I was like, but why? It's fine. I love Selma Hayek. That's fine.
Right.
But like, why did you do this? And they didn't really say it. They just did it for the sake of doing it. And I'm like, is it really being progressive, or are you just trying to get more people to watch this?
I know exactly, and the thing is, though, there are some people that just don't know the difference.
Yeah.
So when they see that the new Captain America is black, they're like, "Oh, they're just following the woke agenda." No. This was
No,
actually
Captain America got shot and he died.
No, this was source material.
But this is when you
know
feel
what
like
I'm
a
saying?
fucking asshole.
Right,
When you have
exactly.
to go to these people and be like, actually, because you know you're right, but you come off like such a little twat.
Right, you don't want to, or as you say all the time on the show, you come off as a goddamn queef.
Yeah, no, you come off as a queef, but you know that you're right, but you don't want to say it because, and that asshole's not going to listen to you anyway.
No, exactly, and he's not gonna He'll beat the crap out of you for being a nerd.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like
Christian Bale Batman's the best Batman. You're like, well, technically what Ben Affleck did was a little closer to Frank Miller. Punch, punch, punch. Like, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. And I think that's the brilliance of nerddom is that, like, not brilliance, it's just like, you said it's cool now, right?
Yeah.
Which means you got a lot of people who aren't really quote unquote nerds that are like, oh, Captain America. And I'm like, that's fine. I think they're entitled, but like to absolutely love whatever they want. That's the beauty of nerddom. Like whatever character you want. But when they say something and then you have to be like, technically, just shut up. Like, don't even bother. Like,
Right, because they think now, like I said, there's this weird entitlement where, you know, they can be like, I love Captain America, he's for the government, blah 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 blah. So you know what I'm saying?
He's not.
But if he's, but then you, I'm like, oh, is he? Did you see? He was the one that
you
went
don't even have
against
to
it.
bring the comic books out on that
Yeah,
one. You
he's
just be like, did you watch the
actually-
second movie? The second movie in
Right,
the
exactly,
franchise.
exactly.
Like,
Then it's like, oh, you know, like fuck this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's they don't.
the
I don't
same
know.
people that say that come
Right.
out and be like, Rage Against Machines is political?
Well, that's insane. That was the funniest shit in the world. Really? Like, what machine do you think they were referring to, you dummy?
Dude.
Like, that was the best part ever.
I sat there and there's some, and like, I guess this is an age thing because I'm like, I'm 35, you're 38, so we're the same generation,
Yeah, we're the
basically.
same age.
But like, I'm like sitting there like an asshole. I'm like, really? Really? It's called the Battle for Los Angeles. Like,
Right, exactly.
Like Born of a Broken Man.
Evil
like,
Empire.
Evil
like,
Empire.
What are you fucking talking about,
Like-
bro?
Did you think they were talking about Afghanistan? Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? So
shit,
like,
bro.
man, but that's the culture. Do you have plugs that you want to have, man?
I mean,
Anything you want to plug? Any shows coming up?
yeah, I got a Laugh to Saves live show on.
Plug it. Look at the camera. Say
I got a Laugh to Save live show, John LaRocchia show on the 19th. No, I'm sorry, it's the 18th. 18th of September. It's at Kitty McGuire's in Bayshore. It's for a great cause, and yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on right now. I produce my own shows. Right now, I'm Jimmy the Geek on Instagram. I'm probably going to change it to Wasted Talent Comedy eventually.
I love the
Because eventually I'm going to
stuff.
brand myself and do this shit responsibly. But for right now, I don't think anyone else cares, so I don't give a shit.
Dude,
There's my promo. That's how I
as for
promote
my
myself.
plugs, I'm going to start doing this from now on. I have an Instagram. I post all my stuff on my Instagram at that Winchell Kid 87. Just Google Joe Winchell or go on Instagram and find Joe Winchell. It's, that Winchell Kid 87. I post all my dates on there for anything upcoming, month to month and everything. So just follow me on there. So follow me on Instagram, okay? James, I just want to say, man, thanks for the bourbon.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Did you have a good time?
I had a lot of fun. This
I
was
had a
great.
great time having you on,
Despite being
man.
a hot, sweaty mess with these lights on
Again,
me.
it was like 45 minutes in. I'm like,
No,
God damn.
for real.
Like,
No, I was a hot, sweaty mess anyway. It was like, I love podcasts, but when I'm just happy I didn't have to see myself on a screen the whole time to see how I'm coming off to people. You know?
No, you came off
It's
great, man.
fucking
I
fine.
had a lot of fun.
This
with
was a
you
lot of
here.
fun. We gotta do this
I gotta
again.
have you back. We'll do a whole Star Wars podcast.
Oh, he did it again.
No, don't. He's in slow motion. So once again, my guest has been James Raniolo.
Thank
If you
you.
see his face on a poster, come check his stuff out. He's very funny. I'm Joe Winchell. If you see my face on a poster, come check me out. I think I'm funny. And thank you for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. We're on all those platforms. If you want video, you can only go on YouTube. Thank you so much. Thank you to my guest. Good night, everybody.
Thanks
And
for
now
having
we
me,
do
brother.
we do the news. What? No, go ahead.
I said thanks for having me. That was all.
Oh, appreciate it. Now we're gonna do the news thing with the credits roll. We have to do this.
Oh, we gotta pretend like, oh, yeah.
And we go.
It looks like
Yeah.
you're a dirty parrot hooker.
He does this, like, I think you're a big whore right there.
I'm gonna shoot you in the ovaries with a BB gun.
BB gun. Just cuts to them behind the
Straight
thing.
shot right to the baby maker.
Favorite thing. Oh,
This was fun.
that was fun, man. I'm glad that you came on, Chris.
He's the millennial